Over in the space of Marvel Comics, there's always a few alien races who show up to wreak havoc on some of our favorite superheroes every couple years. One such race are the aliens known as the Brood. The Brood are insectoid beings kind of wreaking havoc across the Marvel universe, even trying to reproduce with some of our characters at some points that's led to some really wild and intriguing story ideas. The Brood are always faithful to their Empress. Today, let's go ahead and take a look at how the Brood are wreaking havoc across several Marvel superheroes in two separate titles. We'll first go ahead and start with Captain Marvel 46, and then we'll head into X-Men 19 to see just what the Brood are up to in two separate Marvel titles. My name is Araco Braddock, and today let's go ahead and dive into the latest machinations of the Brood. But before we get started, I want to go ahead and encourage you to consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that like button if you enjoy our video. We're going to go ahead and kick things off today with Captain Marvel 46. I want to read off Marvel's solicitation text for the issue to get you caught up to speed on all the events happening over in that series. Revenge of the Brood Part 4. Carol Danvers is on an express elevator to her own personal hell, and the Brood Empress is determined to ensure that the captain and all her friends make it to their destination. Rescuing their team and getting out alive has always been the goal, but the odds are more deeply stacked against her team than Carol can even imagine. I want to read off our creative team over on Captain Marvel 46. This one is written by Kelly Thompson, illustrated by Javier Pina, colored by Yen Nitro, lettered by VC's Clayton Cowles, and the cover for the issue that I'm going to show off in just a moment is over from Juan Frigeri and David Curiel. Here's a look at the gorgeous cover for the issue. Both X-Men and 19 and Captain Marvel 46 feature connecting covers because they both deal with the Brood characters. But we're going to start today by looking over at Captain Marvel 46. Big thanks over to Adventures in Poor Taste for posting this preview of the issue so incredibly quickly. And let's start things off here by just taking a look at some of the artwork in Captain Marvel 46 from Pina. Javier Pina is a great artist that I've been following across several publishers like DC with some excellent work on the Swamp Thing title. And I really think that these, art that's being contributed over to this issue of Captain Marvel is just gorgeous. I love all these kind of candid facial expressions that you can see across the various characters, as well as sort of like the staging and posing of the art in particular. I think also that some of the page compositions, if you take a look at some of these preview pages that we're looking at right now, are just so interesting and dynamic. I really think that Pina is a great artist for superhero stories, particularly ones that are encased with, lots of like really heady action. And I think that this title is kind of perfectly geared towards some of Pina's strengths as an artist. The introductory page in the issue, kind of featuring a 9-panel grid, is just gorgeous and kind of catches you up to speed on the issue so incredibly quickly in the comic. And so this story is another chapter kind of featuring Carol going to a rescue mission in order to kind of save the binary character, who is essentially a character that is her old binary form gone sentient. So it's kind of fascinating to pick up on that plot thread and watch Carol head over to the planet Kaya 2. Hopefully I pronounced that right, to go ahead and save, some of their fellow heroes. Carol is also teamed up alongside a group featuring a few X-Men characters like Juan as well as Spider-Woman. And we see those characters kind of numerous times throughout the issue, assisting and helping Carol. I really enjoyed how this aspect of the issue kind of dealt with one aspect of the Brood, and think this issue is paced really, really well. I really enjoyed kind of all of the deep dives into some of the X-Men history with characters like Juan and how the character of Sora was referenced in this issue. I particularly enjoyed how some of the information was kind of leaked in this issue, as we're dealing with so many kind of telepathic characters in one story. So it's very interesting to get, some of those dynamics there. And I really enjoyed how writer Kelly Thompson was able to use this kind of psychic angle to imbue a little bit of additional subtext into the story. Plus, I also really enjoyed the kind of other X-Men team on the other side of the station, helping out to go ahead and save Rogue as well. The characters that are led by Gambit and Wolverine, Laura Kinney, also go on, quite an interesting journey throughout this story and also find themselves apprehended by the Brood in various moments. So it's really interesting to kind of see how that plot thread develops, and also just to see how kind of one aspect of the Marvel universe is also affected by the Brood. Next up, I want to go ahead and switch over to X-Men number 19 to introduce how kind of the next, Brood invasion is affecting the Marvel universe. Let's go ahead and take a look at the cover over for X-Men 19. This is the second half of the connecting covers, and I want to read off the creative team for this series. So this one was written by Gerry Duggan. It was illustrated by Stefano Caselli, colored by Federico Blee, and lettered by VC's Clayton Cowles. And this cover for the series was also drawn from Juan Frigeri and David Curiel. It's very interesting to see kind of how these two covers connect to each other and make up a greater whole. Let's go ahead and switch gears a little bit and read off the solicit that Marvel wrote for X-Men number 19. When the X-Men get a distress call from deep space, they find the galaxy's Brood problem is not as solved as they thought. Rogue Brood factions have begun running wild, as seen in Captain Marvel right now, and it's up to the X-Men to get to the bottom of why. And let's go ahead and take a look at some of the interiors of the series. This series features beautiful artwork over from Stefano Caselli, who's drawn kind of several chapters of X-Men Red. I love seeing sort of his kind of like bold and dynamic interpretation of some of these Brood characters. I love how kind of expressive Caselli's artwork is in the issue, and love how Caselli draws, fight scenes really particularly. I think a story featuring an alien invasion is a perfect way to kind of flesh out some of Caselli's artwork throughout the story. And a lot of these similar elements over from the Captain Marvel story are still here in this chapter. There's really interesting kind of moments of science fiction and kind of telepathic intrigue. However, the characters in the X-Men story are just slightly different than the Captain Marvel one. So instead of getting, Captain Marvel, we're getting Jeangrey in this chapter. And we're really seeing kind of Cyclops take up his own team of X-Men in order to save his father, the Crimson Corsair, who was impregnated by a Brood in the kind of wild cliffhanger over in the previous issues of X-Men. So getting the resolution of this story and seeing, kind of this small team of X-Men assemble over on the Outer Rim homeworld to go ahead and save the Corsair was a really kind of fascinating tale. And I love how dark the story got. It gave, Laura Kinney, who actually came out of the vault known as Talon, some really great story beats across this issue. That's such kind of a new character, and it's so great to see Gerry Duggan be able to follow up on some moments with that hero, and just kind of seeing this, secondary aspect of the Brood fleshed out and yet another ongoing over at Marvel was just fascinating to see. The alien sequence where the X-Men save, Corsair was particularly gruesome and depicted so violently over from Caselli. Gerry Duggan's scripts across this issue have been kind of so funny and notable that I'm sure, that the duo were having a great time. And it's just so fascinating to see kind of Caselli's rendition of the insane scenarios that Gerry Duggan has managed to string together over in these recent X-Men issues. Plus, there's an absolutely fascinating side subplot over in this chapter dealing directly with Forge and Monet, as well as the kind of location of nowhere that's looking to tease some, fascinating kind of science fiction stories, but we still need to wait a little bit longer to see exactly how that one shakes out. But again, it's interesting to see kind of two different ways and just a couple different, heroes that the Brood have really been, wreaking havoc on and really kind of, engulfing over in the Marvel universe. So those were my thoughts over on two intriguing chapters over at Marvel featuring the Brood, kidnapping existing heroes and causing all sorts of havoc with these different characters. And the Brood story is still not done, so please keep an eye out on the channel for more intriguing Brood moments as we, figure out just how this kind of, alien race plans on really kind of, interrupting the life of several prominent Marvel characters. So I want to know from you, what were your thoughts on these issues? What are your thoughts on the Brood characters, and what do you think these two chapters will go next? Well, thank you guys so much for checking out the video, and we'll be back really soon with more excellent comic book content. Thanks so much, and we'll see you soon. Bye.